I spent 20 years being the easy woman, the one who never complained, the woman who never rocked the boat, the one who never said what she actually needed because she was afraid that she might be abandoned or left. I would smile through dinners where I was really furious. I would say I'm fine when I actually felt like I was drowning. I made myself so small, so agreeable, so easy to love that I eventually became invisible, even to myself. That's my Venus and Libra shadow. And it almost took me out, not figuratively. You see, my womb filled with the rage that I never spoke, hormonal chaos, pelvic pain, so intense. Sometimes I couldn't even really get out of bed. The doctors, of course, they can diagnose a disease, but my soul called it a truth that was finally breaking through. I'm not telling you this so that you feel sorry for me. I'm telling you this so that you know. I didn't read about this wound in a book. I lived it for the last 4 decades, and I found my way out. Now, I'm going to show you yours. And this is based on your Venus placement. And I would really love to hear from you to let me know where your Venus is and if it resonated. And there are some things that nobody really talks about. It's not about love languages, that's cute, or zodiac compatibility. It's not about who you're attracted to. The Venus sign is what your nervous system mistakes for love. Yeah. You see, it's not what you say that you want, it's what your body recognizes as love, because that's what you learned growing up. If chaos feels familiar, you'll call passion what's actually something that creates panic attacks. And if being neglected was normal, you will allow yourself to be neglected. You will feel like you have to earn love through performance. And these contracts, they are astrologically embedded in our soul contracts of our natal chart. And so we're going to talk about this because for a lot of us, we're being called to heal this Venus wound. And I don't know, it's not an easy journey, but it's definitely worth it. What you want is to become the woman who finally chooses differently. Not the woman who chooses what's going to make everybody else feel better, but the woman who doesn't abandon herself to keep a man, a situation, or a job. The woman who can be alone and not feel like she's dying. The woman whose body is soft, it doesn't have to be armored. The woman who feels safe because she's done the work on her nervous system. That's what this work is actually about. So as I delved into the underworld of my own Venus wounds, and I learned these things that helped me to shift my identity in ways I couldn't before. So we're going to go over the Venus placements, and more importantly, we're going to look at who you're becoming and not stay stuck on who you used to be. Venus and Aries. This is the hot take that nobody says. You're not just passionate. You're addicted to the chase because stillness feels like death. You've never actually been in love, but you've been in pursuit of love. The woman you're becoming, she is the woman who can be still and not panic. The woman who knows that safety does not require a chase. The woman who lets love find her instead of hunting it like prey. One thing from my ebook, there's a practice called the stillness protocol. And it takes about 3 minutes a day of doing absolutely nothing while your nervous system learns that you're safe even when nothing is happening. Your Aries Venus will fight this. That's how you know it's working. Now, if you want the rest of this, that's going to be in chapter 6 of my ebook, Sis, Unfck Your Savior Complex. Now, let's get into Venus and Taurus, okay? This is the hot take that nobody says. It's not just loyalty, but you're actually terrified that leaving means you may never find stable ground again. And you'd rather be in a dead relationship than step into the unknown. This is the wound of Venus and Taurus. And the woman that you're actually becoming or desiring to become, she knows that safety is an inside job. The woman who can leave what's killing her because she trusts herself to land in stability and softness. The woman whose stability comes from within and not from who she stays in a relationship with. One thing from the book is there is a practice that's called the root release. It's a somatic exercise that actually teaches your body the movement that's required to release this. And this movement is not destruction, it's creating a new foundation. You know, there's a specific kind of grief from every time that you stayed somewhere too long. And the full practice and breakdown is going to be in chapter 4 of my ebook. Next up, Venus and Gemini. This is the hot take that nobody says. You might be a great communicator, but on the shadow side of that, you're hiding behind words, hoping that no one will see the mess that's underneath. You can talk about your feelings for hours and still not feel a single thing. It's just intellectualized. The woman that you're becoming, she is the woman who can be quiet and still be known. She's the woman who doesn't need to explain herself to be understood. See, the woman whose presence says more than her words ever could is who you are becoming. And one thing from my book that can be helpful to get there is a practice that I call the silence experiment. And you do this for 1 hour with no words, no phone, no distraction, just you and your body. Your Gemini Venus energy will try to talk you out of doing this. Do not let it. Now, the full breakdown for this is going to be in chapter 3 of my book. Let's go over Venus and Cancer. This is interesting. So the hot take that nobody says is that you're not just nurturing, you're mothering everyone, because there is a subconscious, desperate need to actually mother yourself. You give to others so that you can feel needed, because being needed, it feels safer than being left. Now, the woman that you're becoming, the woman who lets herself be held, the woman who receives without guilt, the woman who doesn't have to give her way into love because she knows she's worthy without transactions. Now, one thing from the book that I feel like would be really helpful is a practice that I call the receiving protocol. And so every night you lay your hands on your chest and you say that I am worthy of being held. And you feel ridiculous at first, almost as if this is not going to do anything. But that feeling tells you everything that you need to know if that comes up. And the rest of that ritual will be in chapter 7 of my book. Now, Venus and Leo, this is the hot take that nobody says. It's not just that you're confident, but you perform so hard because being invisible feels like dying to you. You crave the applause. You feel like you need it. It makes you feel alive. And that need can sometimes be exhausting for everybody else, but it seems to feed you. But then later, it feels empty. Now, the woman you're becoming is the woman who can just exist. The woman who she doesn't really need an audience to feel real. The woman whose light comes from within, not from the reflection that she needs from others. I have a practice in my book that I think would be helpful, and that would be the unseen offering. So one thing every day that nobody else will see. This could be dancing in the dark. This would be a song that you sing without a witness. You know, the Leo energy combined with Venus is not going to like this medicine, but trust me when I say it's simple and transformative, and I go into depth in this in chapter 5 of my book. Now, for Venus and Virgo, this is the hot take that nobody says. You're not just helpful, but you're earning love through labor because you never really learn that you're worthy without your productivity. You fix everyone so that they don't have to feel the broken places, the broken pieces in them and you. The woman you're meant to become, she is the woman who can be loved for nothing. The woman who rests without guilt. The woman whose worth, it isn't measured by her output, but her presence. And one of the things that I use that helped me, that I share in my book, is a really simple practice called the useless hour. So you spend 60 minutes where you do nothing productive. No chores, no planning, no optimizing, no existing. Just you and your body. And your body might scream, but that sound is healing. And when you challenge yourself in these simple ways, you can cross over to the other side. Now, Venus and Libra, y'all know that's my specialty. That's the soul contract I chose. And the hot take that nobody says is that we're not just harmonious, but maybe you've erased yourself completely. That even you cannot find where you end and your man begins. You've made a personality out of being easy, and it costs you everything. See, the woman that you're becoming, the woman who takes up space, the woman who can disagree and still be loved, the woman whose no is sacred, who needs nobody to do anything for her. You are clear on your non-negotiables. And when you walk in a room, your presence is everything. This is the energy of Venus when it's healed. One of the practices that I use, I call it the small no. And just use one tiny boundary every day. It could be, no, I don't want to order that, or no, I'd rather not. Just feel what it's like in your body to say no, to not be agreeable. Feel what it's like to be disagreeable. And you might feel some panic in your nervous system, but know that this is a boundary protocol that you're creating that you never had. And I go into depth about this in chapter 8. Now for Venus and Scorpio, the hot take that nobody says is that, yeah, you're not just intense, but you're terrified of being betrayed again. So you try to control everything before it can hurt you. You test people until they fail, because being right about their failure feels safer than actually trusting and being wrong. The woman that you are becoming, this is the woman who trusts without proof. This is the woman who lets people in without making them pass a test that they didn't even know they were taking. It takes some work to get here, but it's worth the risk when you calculate it the right way. The woman you're becoming is a woman who is able to love herself and doesn't allow herself to be weaponized against her own self. And you learn how to trust. And so the practice that I used was a small trust. It was just one tiny thing that was vulnerable that I would do every week. And I would say I felt lonely, even if I felt afraid to. I'm not required to earn anything, and it's safe for me to let someone in, and it's safe for me to allow myself to be seen. And so these simple vulnerability protocols I go into depth all about in chapter 4 of my ebook. Now, Venus and Sagittarius, this is the hot take that nobody says. You're not just free-spirited, you're running so that you never have to feel the weight of staying. You've confused restlessness with growth, and you've left behind everyone who ever loved you. It's not intentional. It's the nervous system. The woman that you're meant to become is a woman who can land. The woman who stays even when it gets hard. She doesn't have to flee. The woman who discovers that freedom exists inside the commitments. But you'll never know until you stop running. It's not just about being a free spirit. The shadow side of this is that you're running from something. And in my book, there's a practice called the landing. And this is allowing yourself to stay somewhere where you probably would have previously left. And this could be an uncomfortable conversation. It could be a feeling that get too real. And just stay. Be grounded. Become land. You might feel like you go die doing it, but you won't. And I go into detail about this in chapter 3 of the book. Now, Venus in Capricorn, here's the hot take that nobody says. You're not just ambitious. You're trying to earn love through achievement because no one ever just gave it to you. You've confused respect with love, and you're exhausted from performing worthiness, trying to be worthy. The woman you're becoming is the woman who receives without earning, the woman who knows she's enough without a resume to prove it, the woman who lets love find her instead of achieving her way into being chosen. This is when you are no longer a pick-me. And one of the things from the book that I think would be really helpful for this would be the practice called the compliment receiver. So you just accept one compliment this week. Don't deflect it. Don't explain anything. And don't feel like you had to earn it. Just say thanks. And let somebody else's good opinion land. Allow yourself to be seen without performing. This receiving practice is in chapter 6 in the book, and I go into deep details about that as well. Now, Venus in Aquarius, this is the hot take that nobody says. You're not detached. You're so afraid of being overwhelmed that you've numbed yourself to everything. You've made a fortress out of your own head, and you wonder why no one can reach you. This means that you find some type of comfort in not being in your body, but living in your head. The woman you're becoming is the woman who can feel without drowning, the woman who can love without losing herself, the woman whose uniqueness becomes an invitation. It's not a wall. One of the things that's in the book that I feel like will be helpful would be the feeling name practice. So every day you're going to name a feeling. Don't analyze it. Don't explain it. Just name it. I feel sad. I feel angry. And just let the words land in your body without judging them. Let yourself be human for once. Now, the full emotional reclamation can be found in chapter 5 of the ebook. Venus in Pisces. Here's a hot take that nobody really talk about. Is that the compassion that you gave wasn't always reciprocated. And you've made a religion out of self-sacrifice and called it love. And you know that you crave compassion, so you give it, but you don't always receive it in return. The woman that you're becoming is a woman who can love without disappearing. The woman whose boundaries are sacred, even if other people see them as selfish. The woman who finally knows where she ends and he begins, or others begin. And doing this work on myself, one of the things that I found that was helpful was the edge finder. So like every day, find one boundary, one moment where you say, this is me and this is not me. And just feel the difference between your feelings and somebody else's feelings. Feel where you end and the rest of the world begins. The full boundary reclamation can be found in chapter 7 of the ebook. So now that I've went through the Venus shadow side, the wounds, here's what I want you to notice. Every single Venus sign has a shadow. Every single one has a wound. Every single one has a pattern that's been running your love life since before you could walk and talk. But that's not who you are. That's who you had to be. The question isn't, how do I heal my Venus? The question is, what do I want to become? Because when you become the woman who can be still, who can receive, who can stay, who can trust, the woman who can say no without feeling guilty. Everything changes. Your body changes. Your choices change. The people who show up for you, they change. You become somebody who doesn't recognize her old life. She no longer identifies with the old way. That's what the 8-point Soul Contract Decoder is for. It shows you your Venus. So this is the woman that you had to become. Your moon. This is where the programming started, which is in childhood. Your Chiron, which is the womb that became your superpower, meant to become your superpower. Your Lilith, that's the part of you that's still waiting to come home. Your Mars, that's where your node got buried. And your North Node, that's the woman that you are becoming. So these maps can be found and on my website. I'm going to put the links in the description for you. If you want to go deeper, if you want the practices, the rituals, and the somatic workouts that actually rewires your nervous system, beginning with the books is Unfck Your Savior Complex. There are full excavations. And this is so much deeper than shadow work because it goes into the fragmented parts of you that are not easily accessible. Both books can be purchased because I created one for the masculine, for men. And after spending 30 or 40 years being the easy woman, the woman who swallowed her truth until she developed a thyroid issue, the woman who abandoned herself and called it love. You know, our body keeps the score. And your womb fills with the words that you never speak. And that's what happened to me. And I've been finding my way out. And I built a map so that you don't have to spend the next 4 decades searching the way that I did. If your Venus has been running the show, you know, that's not a terrible thing. That means that you're here to evolve and you've noticed that. And it begins now by choosing differently. So I would love to hear from you. What is your Venus sign, if you already know? And what's one thing that you're ready to stop settling for? I read every comment, and I'll be right here walking this path right with you.
Yeah. Higher, I take you higher. Yeah. I got this sacred